All right. Hello, everyone. Thanks for the second week of the Zoom. I'm just trying to do 12 of these, just take it through a month and really go in and dive into each level so it makes more sense. What we went over last week was just some of the education I have. I don't want to get into what I learned from each of those guys, and I will talk about it more. And I'll add more guys because I'm learning more as it goes. But you can go back and watch those. So if anybody didn't watch that and they have a question about a certain athlete that I mentioned on that YouTube channel, I'll just open it up for about 5 or 10 seconds if someone asks a question about that education and free content. Cool. And then what we went over yesterday was last week was speed and agility warm-ups. A lot of them are sprint drills. And they are sprint drills. I got frustrated with our combine guys this week because we've been prepping how to do high knees and butt kicks and skips and toe up shuffles. And I look over and watch them warm up the other day. And the last drill we do is high knees because it's a powerful drill and impact. And they all start doing high knees with their toes down. And I'm like, here's the ground. Your toe is like this. First, like this. I got a lot more energy to come down there than I do pawing at the ground. So even these elite guys have to be reprogrammed how to do high knees and butt kicks. Now, Matt Gates will get mad at me a little. Oh, we don't need technique. Yeah, but for force production, some technique helps. So if we got 8 weeks, 6 weeks with a guy, then what we do is we warm them up every Monday. We don't focus on it too much. If they do the drill wrong, we don't recorrect it. We're just, all right, we're done. Now we hammer acceleration in the legs. But then what I did do with them Tuesday mornings is like, who's having a problem doing skips, high knees, butt kicks, and toe up shuffles? And if they have a problem doing it before our agility day on Thursday, Tuesday, which is a flush out day, we work those sprint mechanics. And it's nothing different than those speed drills we do. I don't do bounds. I kind of stay away from high knees. We don't do sprints. We just do really just level one technique speed drills to flush out their legs before they do agility if they have a form deficiency. So nothing magic there. It's not hard. It's just real simple. So with those speed and agility warm-ups that we went through yesterday, you can structure those as a workout. You can structure them as a warm-up, then go sprint. You can use a lot of the agility stuff as drills. The acceleration drills can be, it's just how do you accelerate without sleds and stuff. I mean, all that can be a speed workout. So again, I'll take 10 seconds. If anybody has any questions about phase 1, 2, 3 speed warm-ups or speed drills and phase 1, 2, 3 agility warm-up or warm-up drills, I'll fire off if y'all went back and looked at anything. All right, so here we're going to get into the main thing. And I think we're real close about turning this thing into a mobile app, which will be perfect. Oh, you can't see my screen. But real close for it to be an XPE Game Speed mobile app, which would be real cool because you can just chill on it on your phone and do whatever. But I'm going to go over testing recommendations today. Now, people are like, when do you test? When do you not test? I don't know. What do you feel like? Do you want to do a pre-test? Never test again? Train people for 8 weeks post-test? That's what we kind of have to do with our combine guys. We pre-test them. And we're pre-testing them for speed. We're doing vert broad, how fast you get to 10, how fast you get from 10 to 20, how fast you get from 20 to 30. And from there, we do deficiencies and we try to prepare you for 8 weeks. Now, will we test? Yeah, we'll do some 20 to 10-yard flies every Monday just to see how guys are feeling. They don't have to hit it hard, or they can tell me I'm hitting it hard. But when they tell me they're hitting it hard and it's not a fast time, I let them know, you tried to go fast and you weren't. So I'll test every Monday with them. Constantly getting feedback on a treadmill. That's just how fast are you moving a belt against resistance. So testing is training. It just depends on how much you want to do. You can do it every day. You can do it pre, mid, post. You can do it scattering it through days. It doesn't matter. Just this data overload can get crazy. I just try to give testing recommendations that you can do before, during training. And a lot of the game speed ones really teach you about game speed. So the first one we talk about is Combine 40 test and training. We test our Combine 40, and it's a video with a hand start, laser at the 10, laser at the 20. And then I don't want to blow my guys out the first day because they don't know how to run yet. So then we do a laser 20 to 30. And from that, you can estimate their 40 within 300 to 400s. What do I mean by that? if they're going 20 to 30 at somewhere, you get that 20 to 30 split. If they're still picking up speed and they're fast, they'll get about a half tenth faster from 30 to 40. If they're about 4.7, 4.8, they'll get about 3/10 faster, 30 to 40. If they're about 5.0 to 5.2, they'll stay the same speed. If they're slower, so you can guess within 3 to 4 hundredths what their 40 is by looking at their 30 and just doubling it. And if they're fast, taking off a few hundredths. If they're mediums, keeping it the double the same. If they're slow, doubling it and adding a few hundredths. You can guess their 40 within a few hundredths without having them to blow out a 40. The reason why I do that is because there's no exact 40-yard dash measurement anywhere in this world. And even worse at the combine. It's as lucky, I mean, stupid at the combine. So until people start measuring it exactly the same way everywhere you go, especially with kids going hand at one camp, hand laser at another camp, fully laser at another camp, I'm not going to get exact in telling them what 40 they run. I always tell them you're running a range. And when you go to your pro day or your combine or your workout, you're going to run a range of 40s. So there's no exact way because there's no golden norm because the NFL combine sucks. And y'all have heard me talk about it before. The NFL combines, we have the fastest guys ever. They'd be faster if they didn't cheat. But, you know, it's a big sham. And until they normalize it, then the rest of the industry won't. So I go over 40 combine test and training and how I do it with my guys pre-test. And then when we go out in 40, we go, let's go rip a 40, and I start it when you move, and let's see where you're at the 20 and see where you're at the 40. And then if I have a week or two with them because we're peaking, if I didn't think you got to the 20 fast enough, we work on your starts the last 2 weeks a little more. If I didn't think you opened up good enough, we let you rest and work on your top end mechanics a little bit. That's all we do. It's not hard. It's just very simple. So with combine 40 test training, does anyone have any questions about that? Boom.
I guess, Tony, are you
Oh,
getting,
go. Yeah, fire away.
are you capturing when you say you're capturing those splits, are you mostly looking at the miles per hour, or you're just looking at the actual the time of that, whatever, 20 to
I'm looking at the 10-yard split.
10-yard
We
split?
could easily convert it to miles per hour, but I don't think miles per hour really matters until you start going in 20, 30, 40 yards because, you know, the miles per hour when you're looking at the split is the average mile per hour from entrance to exit, right? So I look at the splits. I always give Joe Satowski the credit. I had a board up in my building of guys that ran 4.2, what was their 10, 20, and 40 at Indy. Guys that ran 4.3s, what was their 10, 20, and 40 at Indy. And I had all that done based off guys that we trained and then where exactly were they at during our 6 to 7 weeks. And that's what you use as pacers for guys, right? So I didn't always have to time 40s. I could say, let's do a 10-yard lead into a 10-yard fly and see where you're at. And then Joe Statowski did a great chart. It's on Simply Faster if you look for it. I have a copy of it. I asked Joe, he's like, it's public, share it, you know? So we'll do a 10-yard lead into a 10-yard fly, and I'll tell guys, you're at a 4.5 pace, you're at a 4.7 pace. That means I'm going to run a 4.5. Nah, you're 260 pounds. You're probably going to run a 4.6 because your back end's not going to be that fast. You know, but so that's what I use. And I look at the splits and you can tell, like I had a running back train, amazing running back. He came in with a 1.6010, which is a 4.7. Okay, cool. 4.6, 4.7. That's normal for a running back. His 10 to 20 was like 1.21. I couldn't believe it. That's a 5.2 pace. And then his 20 to 30 was like a 4.9 pace. So it's like, all right, something's wonky there. So I made him run again. Same 10 to 20. I'm like, he's doing something wonky in the middle of his run. We got to work on his acceleration zone because normally running backs look like this. A 4.6, 10 when they start with us, a 4.7, 10 to 20, and a 4.8, 20 to 30. And I look at my run, you're a running back, you're short, stocky, and you waddle, you waddle and wobble, you don't open up. So your speed is dropping. So we could work on technique more for your back end speed. And Matt Gay says, like, no, just hammer their acceleration and get their acceleration longer. So I do a little technique with them, but we just make sure they accelerate longer. And it normally clears up their back end deficiency of their max V for 40-yard dash instances. It may not help them 60-yard or 100-meter, but it helps them for 40-yard dash.
Okay. I guess my question was gonna be, with high school kids, would you recommend really just, um, with the 40s being all over the place, just focusing in at whenever you're gonna test different intervals. Maybe this week I'm testing 10 into 20. Maybe next week I'm testing their 20 into 30, and just
That's
kind
what
of,
I would do.
yeah,
Yeah.
okay, all right,
What I do to monitor my guys or even high school kids, I'm like, I just lay the number one indicator for 40 speed, everyone is right, is what max V you're hitting, right? And then if you have a strong start, so you do the 20 to 30 yard fly, and Joe Sheet tells you exactly what they're running with that speed, right?
yeah,
Now, people don't believe it. I'm like, okay, well, then you must have an amazing start. And if you have an amazing start, maybe you're going to beat that a little bit, right? But yeah, I use the 20 to 30 yard lead in. I use it every Monday, like with our guys, and just see how they're feeling, you know? But then you're starting, and everybody that believes in that fly time, which people do now, you're starting to split hairs over hundredths of a second all the time, right? You celebrate. I celebrate when a guy goes 0.96. I'm mad when he goes 0.99. I'm like, it's 300ths of a second, 1/5 the blink of an eye. He's in a range. All that matters to me is he 0.96 or better the day he peaks and runs it into, you know?
okay.
So,
Yeah, I'm just
and,
trying to
and
see about getting the more consistent, kind of valid, I guess, right? If we think the
yeah,
40 could be unvalid,
the
so yeah, I'll just keep focusing on splits.
splits is perfect. I told the
And then
NFL to look at it
your
years ago.
start is so amazing. Like, yeah, like we can go in the gym, when it's cold or raining, and we can do 10
Yeah.
into 10, and like I can
And,
equate it. Yeah.
and we give
Okay.
you a 5 yard split too that we're coming out with. It's not hard, a 5 yard split that predicts your 40, but it's really the short speed of your 40. So the shorter you go with the lead in, the more unexact the prediction is, right?
Okay.
Because so much more
Okay.
can happen so the best indicator is that 20 to 30 fly.
Okay. All right. Appreciate it.
No problem. Any other questions? Okay, so then the next video I talk about is the combine agility training. Again, absolutely stupid. It's one guy sitting there with a hand and going to, they're doing the combine shuttle and the 3-cone. If he has error in his thumb, it counts. And he's got a thumb at the start and a thumb at the end. At least at the Indy 40, they just have an error in the thumb at the beginning, but that's their shuttle and 3-cone. It's planned agility. You know exactly what steps you're taking. Has nothing to do with reaction, gain. It's nothing. So I think those two tests are real stupid, and we're trying to come up with better stuff. Later on, after we talk tonight, I'm going to go over where we're going with this because I'm coming up with a 6-step angle tree, I call it. It's what Anquan Bolton taught me, and it's how we perfect every angle. And I got myself on video, like I talked about, and I'm going to get some great athletes on video in February, and hopefully B1 can come up with a good system to where you just video your kid and you compare it to elite people. You don't even need the time, and the kid can see where he's falling behind on what step. Oh, I went into you got there as fast as an NFL athlete, but look at him come back. You got there ahead of an NFL athlete, but when he changes direction, he just separates. Oh man, I do need to work on my agility. I think that's going to be the only way to really coach agility in the future. Is I think this game speed way, I believe in it, and video analysis of hitting certain angles going forward. So combine agility chest shuttle and 3-cone, again, they're old, they're outdated. We're prepping them right now, but they're stupid. They're stupid. They're just stupid. Any questions about the how we coach the 5-10-5? Because it's just wide base crossover into a shuffle, set another wide base, crossover, 1-step shutdown, 1-2-3, set another wide base, crossover out. I went over it today. And once when guys look comfortable in it in cleats after about 15 minutes, I said, cool, let's get into some other stuff. We'll work harder on it every week. That's it. Okay, so now let's go to the game speed 5-10 fly. That's the next one. I picked this distance like 8 years ago after dealing with Anquan Bolden and Revis because for football I thought it was the perfect distance for wide receivers and skill players out on the field. When a receiver runs a deep dig, it's at 15 yards. Post is normally 15. Post corner past 15. Deep comeback 18 back to 15. Hinge route 12. Slant is right at 5 yards, pro outs right at 7 yards. So all of their change of direction on that field for the skill players was between 5 and 15 yards. And Anquan Bolden had it dialed in. He's like, Tony, we don't run routes faster than, he told me 14, 15 miles an hour. I'm like, you're crazy. Let's teach him how to do it at 18. He's like, you can't. I'm like, yes, we can. We can get faster and do agility faster. He's telling, no, you can't. And it took me a lot of years to come up with this system, but you can't. You cannot run routes faster than 16 to 17 miles an hour through that zone and hit your appropriate change of directions. So that's what that game speed 5-10 fly is it's not just how fast can you hit the gas and get. And I just talked to Josh Palmer about this, a great route running receiver. This is why I love Josh Palmer. He's in 4th year of the San Diego Chargers. I train him. I've trained Gilmore, Stephon Gilmore. Stephon Gilmore comes down and he's living in Boca now. So I start to see him again in the summer. And I'm like, who are some good receivers you're going against? He said, that dude from the Chargers, Josh Palmer, man, he's good. I'm like, really? I train him. He's like, man, he's faster than you think, but he gets out of his brakes and you don't know what he's doing. And I'm like, yes. Right. So I talked to Josh today. He's coming back down to soft season. And I told him, I was like, dude, you know everything we know now. He's like, well, when are you going to start doing routes with me? I said, Josh, you're going into your 5 to 8. You're noticing how you run routes good. I'm going to start training you like an athlete and getting you explosive first. He's like, back to combine? I said, no. I'm just going to make sure you can go 1-2-4 on that 5-10 fly. Because that means you're getting in at 14, coming out at 18. Or you're just can't get in at 16 and average that speed. Or you're getting in at 15, coming out at 17. You're averaging 16 miles an hour at 1.24 seconds through that 5-10 fly. And I said, right then, I know you have enough acceleration to hit 20 miles an hour if you got to go, and you're at appropriate route speed. So when you can get to 1-2-4, then I'm going to work game speed with you. He's like, what do you mean? The first part of agility, Josh, this is all going to make sense to you, game speed. Can you get to that 1-2-4 only concentrating on 3 steps of speed? Can you get to it only concentrating on 2 steps of speed? When we talked about that, Kirby Joseph can get to it in 1 step of speed. Okay? That's game speed. Okay, then we learn that. Okay, now you can get 1-2-4 or under. Doesn't need to be much faster, though. On the 5-10 fly, can you stop at 18 yards within 0.05 to 0.07 seconds? If you can't, we need to work on your deceleration. Okay, so now we've gone over game speed. Then we've gone over deceleration and a way to test it. Okay, then after that, we've got your game speed, we've got your deceleration. You know we're going to work with you, Josh? You already know it. We're going to be prepping your body position and footwork. Okay. Then once when you got your acceleration, you got your deceleration, we prepped your body position and footwork, which you already know. Now we're going to go run into that zone and be able to bang 45 long for a post, roll 90 deep for a deep dig, sit on it tight, come back to 135 for a comeback, hit a 45 short for a slant, hit a roll 90 fast on a pro out. And we've prepped it all. So every athlete needs that, but we really became a receiver coach without trying to be, just by teaching it in that order of that 5-10 fly and game speed into learning how quick you can get to game speed, how efficiently you can get to game speed. Check it off the box. Can you decel with it? Check it off the box. While you're working on that, that's your speed day. Can you work on foot placement and body position, footwork, hash marks, inside, outside, whatever you want to work on to teach it on your off days? Yep, check that off the box. Now you're ready to go outside and run routes, or any athletes can go out there, lacrosse, soccer, and run an attack angle. So that's why that game speed fly is so important. In the video, I talk about those distances and those splits you need. And again, for 40-yard dash, we want you to be 118 to 115 if you want to go 4-4 and under. And if you're not sniffing 115, you're not going 4-4 or under. We've seen some 111s and 112s pop up. I've heard a college kid, don't want to say his name, coach in Alabama, said he's seen a 108 pop up, and I've seen the kid play. He may be that fast. But I've never seen a 108 and a 5-10 fly. But the point being is I've seen 111, 112, and I know 115 of that is blazing. But for game speed, we just need 122 to 124 to be fast enough to win, even on the pro football field. So that's what I mean by that is imagine if you only need 124 to win on a pro football field. What do you think you really need to win on a high school football field? It doesn't need to be faster. So that's why this stuff is so important. So Any questions about why I chose the game 5-10 fly? I did it 7 years ago, and I'm not saying everyone copied. I chose it for Anquan Bolden and Reeves is explaining it to me, but now it's widely used from everyone that everyone knows how fast is fast in it. I think people are doing it wrong because I don't care. The 5-10 fly test is for are you fast enough in it, and how efficiently can you get there without trying. Any questions about that 5-10 fly?
So let's look at game speed 101.
Okay. The next video it's called on testing recommendations. It's called Game Speed 101. It's just me talking about a whiteboard of how different people working on those game speed steps got to different speeds and how each one was a little different. But mostly it showed them that sprinting didn't really get them faster, and just creating force at the beginning and continuing movement was just as fast, and they were in much better control when they did it. I have to do this with pro athletes all the time, but I also do it with high school kids. I do it with little kids because the sooner they learn it, they all can do it. The pro athletes are harder because they're arguing with me all the time until you show it to them. I've heard Anquan Bolden, Chris Carter. I've heard all these great receivers argue with these guys forever. This is the only way to prove it to them. Why sprint in your route? You're only 300s faster. And once when we get to the game speed agility test, that 300s faster of speed is going to cost you 3/10 in the change of direction. And that's what playing fast is. And that's what all the greats knew without knowing how to test it. They knew it though. They knew they were getting out of their breaks faster by slowing down. But these type of tests show we're slowing down 3 to 400s to improve 3 to 4/10 on any change of direction. The game speed 101 is just how I do a whiteboard because like we talk about data all the time. I'm trying to work with Cody Hughes a little bit better on Rock Daisy to be able to just punch in stuff and get diagrams out and and we're trying to present that to everybody. But normally I just go on a whiteboard, write it out, and then we talk about it, and then do another rep, write it out, we talk about it, and then I just put on a whiteboard for now. I will get better at it in our mobile app, and we'll get better at it to hopefully where you can punch in scores and get if you're strong, needs improvement, or I call it deficient. We don't want to call kids great, bad, and suck. So I'm trying to call strong, going to call needs improvement, and then deficient means you suck. Any questions about that game speed 101? It's just pretty interesting to watch. I do that whiteboard session I put y'all through and just how I explain it. I do that all the time. So, well, how often do you test? Well, this day we had treadmill runs and 15-yard sprints in our curriculum, in our program up on the board. It wasn't hard. We're going to do 6 treadmill sprints with 6 5 to 10-yard flies and then go work on a decel drill. And after we 6 of them, we'll see how we feel. Well, so I was telling guys when Matt Gates was running the treadmills, I was running the 5 to 10-yard flies. I was telling them to do their 5 to 10 flies differently. Now I could have said, let's do 6 in a row and see how much your speed drops off. That's not game speed. Let's do 6 in a row and try to get faster, everyone. That'd be a little bit of game speed because now you're seeing if they try harder, do they get faster? But I really changed up the way they were doing 5, 10 flies so they can start learning what speed and what elicits what. So any questions about that video? And again, if we go over anything and you want to go back and watch it, go ahead.
He is leaving and doesn't want him around anymore.
Any questions? Okay, so now the next one is the game speed agility 180 or 90 roll. Game speed. This test is money. It is. We've got your speed from 5 to 15 yards. We want to be 124. That's just what we want to be. I know you want to drop about 3/10 of a second. Okay. When you do a 90-degree roll through the same zone, you got a 10-yard zone for straight. You got a 5-yard lead in for straight. 5-yard lead in, and then you got a 90 roll. So you go 5 yards, you hit a roll and go another 5 yards. Now I put the lasers at 2 yards deep. So they got to do that roll in 2 yards. And the more you do that test with athletes, the more they see I am running out of control and chopping, and it's costing me 2 to 3/10 of a second. That's why a speed out is called a speed out. It gets you from A to B fastest. Breakdown out is called a breakdown out. It doesn't get you from A to B fastest. They're both needed. But We just want people to learn how to roll 90 first. And that's what that game speed agility roll 90 test does. And there's variations of it. And I talk about it. When you go 10 yards and have to do that turn, if you take that cone and move it not a yard, 1 foot in diagonal, it saves 1 to 2 tenths of a second. It's absolutely crazy. Patrick Surtain couldn't believe it. I said, that's why we try to cut down angles. Because we cut down angles, we save a tenth or two. And then Surtain was mad at me because he couldn't get as fast as Denzel Ward. And I said, okay, Denzel's like the smoothest mover I've seen the last few years. And I said, hold your arm out, Surtain. And he held his arm out, and it was like this much longer than mine. And I said, well, Denzel's about my size, a little bigger, but you're this much longer than Denzel. So when Denzel cuts his angle down this much, he gains his 2/10 of a second on you. But you gain it when you reach back for the ball. That's why you want a long, lean corner. So it's just amazing when you do these tests, what affects tenths of a second in agility. And I've never seen anything like that game speed roll 90 test. Again, if you're 124 on the 510 fly, I want you 154 to 159 plus 3/10 or a little less or a little more on the roll 90. If you can't do it, if you can go 124 on the roll on the straight ahead, and then you're 175 or 174, you're up half a second. It should be 3/10, not 0.5. That means you are fast enough and going too fast to hit that roll 90 test. Any questions on that?
You don't get to choose who rides you.
And then the next one is game speed agility 180. Since everybody receivers work on this wide base crossover now everywhere, I mean, we're going to go through a whole session, and Anquan does it, of how you decel, break, plant, sit tight, and jab back. But we're going to kind of evolve it to where when we decel, break, plant, and jab back, that's going to be good for boom, boom, 135. And then we're going to say when we teach 180, we're going to go decel, break, sit, cross back, 180. And that way you cover how to come back with tight feet and cross over back with a wide base. And now you're not going to argue with people because you say we teach both. We teach both. We just think sharper angles and whip angles, you go wide base. We think the 135s, we sit tight. Now, video analysis will show even at 180, sitting tight is a lot faster, but we don't want to argue with everybody about everything. So what we do now is we just set up the 5-yard lead in. We go 5 yards and back 5 yards. That's 5 plus 5, that's 10. So it's still a 10-yard fly. And we don't make them touch the line with their hand because we're not doing that on the field. We give them a 1 foot cushion. So if I have a cone at the 5-yard lead in laser, another 5 yards, I put a cone. I just put a little disc 1 foot in that cone, and that's their change of direction area. Both feet have to be in it. So that inside foot has to be in it. So if that inside foot goes in it and they sit wide, they're there. If that inside foot goes in it and they sit tight, they're there. That's going to cut down the angle. So that automatically shows them when we do it that way, sit wide, cross back, sit tight, jab back. And they'll start to learn sitting tight and jabbing back cuts down the angle more. Sitting wide, crossing back is effective, but any bit of spin in place there, you lose 1 to 2 tenths of a second. So we do that 180 comeback. We try to tell them to do it off their inside edge and cross over because it's the easiest way to coach and teach them. But most kids do it and spin around. So you don't even need to teach fast feet replace, we call it, because they're already doing it. And then when you're doing the test, you're trying to teach them at least set that inside edge and cut down that angle instead of spinning into that angle. And then if they learn that, then you can teach them that sit tight and jab back. But I wouldn't get into that when you're first doing these tests. Any questions on the game speed agility 180 comeback?
I get scared.
Tony, do you worry about torso angles on that test?
I mean, I do. I want them as low as possible, and that's why I'm going to use B1 video analysis. But the wider you go, the lower you'll get, the more you should be on your inside edge, right? Right?
Okay.
The more you sit tight, the more you'll threaten downfield. So if I'm running like this, if I sit tight, I'm going to threaten downfield and then jab back. If I sit wide, I'm already going to have my body turned. I'll be on the inside edge, and that's when we'll create the angle. So we are going to get into torso angles, but when I do it with B1, I don't like how much people are paying for video analysis, and I keep going over that. That's why I'm trying to use some money to invest in B1 so they can make it affordable for coaches, right? I want coaches to be able to video 50 athletes in one session and then be able to, if they're paying a $25 or $30 a month fee, get video analysis on all 50 of those kids. You know?
Yeah.
I think, and you know what? And then do it the next day, and then do it the next week, and it's you're not paying per video. So that's when I'm going to get into these angles. But B1 video analysis puts like they can look at any metric you want up top. So I'm going to try to probably pick 5 metrics you look at up top. But what's going to be cool, like I think you can overdo it. It's going to be 5 metrics up top, and then it's going to have 5 freeze frame positions of the change of direction points, right? So when you do it, it's going to be like, all right, here's the first free frame. What are your angles? Now, those angles don't mean anything to me unless if I'm comparing them to somebody who knows how to do it, right? So those angles up top may mean something, but what I really want to use B1 for is, I want to compare this client to Denzel Ward. Boom. Okay, put them side by side. Who's lower? Who's got more torque? Who's sitting tighter? You know, that's where I think it's really going to help with the angles because I really don't even know an angle. Sounds bad. I know shin angles, and so I don't know what one angle is supposed to look like. Embarrassingly, admitting it. Any other questions about that 180? Okay, a few more tests. Then we got game speed max V. I don't care what your max V is on a track, patting the track and spikes. And I do believe in that, Tony Holler, because it does give you a great exposure. I just believe at what speed you can get between 20 to 10. 20-yard lead and 10-yard fly. Now, for our combine guys, when we're trying to chase 4.3s, we're trying to get that number 0.93, 0.92. We're trying to chase 4.2s, you better be 0.93, 0.92. But you can get a 4.3 if you're 0.95 and you peak and you hit a good start. So, like, I know that for 40, but when I have my off-season guys or kids, I'm always just like my off-season guys that are fast, I'm like, hey, let's just start getting 1.0 and under. What do you mean? Let's get 1.0 and under as many different ways as we can. Why? Because 20.45 divided by 1.0 is 20.45 miles an hour. You're averaging 20.5 miles an hour through there. That's probably faster than you've run on with pads, right? Now, some guys get 21 and 22 on the ground, so maybe we want them at 0.97, 0.96. But the whole deal with that is all we really want them is we want them faster than they're going to feel in pads, right? For to get the exposures to their hamstrings. If you believe in hamstring vaccination with sprinting. So we don't need to push them sprinting all the time. I don't even think you need to tell them to go hard. I just think you need to open up space and tell them to run free. And when we go game speed max V, we start to say, oh, let's go 75%. If you can get 0.98, I want 75% to be 105. I want 90% to be 101. I want 100% to be 0.98. That's a good lesson in max V is if people try harder, are they getting faster? Because if kids or pros are trying harder and getting slower, they shouldn't go to the intensity that they're trying harder and getting slower. That's a recipe for disaster. You're going to pull a muscle, or your whole goal of exposing them to high velocities, or your whole goal of having them be the fastest is eliminated by them going too hard. So that 20 to 10 max V testing for game speed is, again, what can you hit? Can you be fast enough? But what percentage do you do it at? How easy can you be fast enough? That's really, really important for game speed. So any questions about game speed max V? It's different than 40 max V. It's the same lead in, but it's totally different. Okay, so the next video is game speed, understanding your speed. It's another little whiteboard session. It's not long. It's 3 minutes long. It's just me talking about a whiteboard. I don't have the video. I don't have the videos of every athlete running through going beep, beep, beep. That's effing boring. I'm not going to do that. We just wrote it down, and then I look at it with the guys, and then I look at it with just explaining what we saw that day. And I named some names, and you can look them up because they don't mind. And it's pretty cool that you can probably have high school kids run as fast as those guys. And I'd show that to high school kids. Hey, man, you're as fast as these kids. But when they do a roll 90, they do it at 155. You do it at 180. That's what's stopping you from getting in the NFL. Like all these kids want to go to the NFL, right? That's what's limiting you from getting a D1 scholarship. You're as fast as an NFL player by hundreds, but you're 3/10 behind him on agility. We got to flip this world on its head, hopefully until I retire. I want to retire, right? See, that's why I want to retire. Right there. So trying to retire, but before I retire, I want people to understand that there's such a huge return on investment for playing fast with game speed, not learning how to play fast with sprint speed. That's a huge thing. So any questions with that 20 to 10 fly or the game speed, understanding your speed. And if you haven't watched it, watch it now that I've kind of explained it, and then we'll talk about it more next week. Okay. Any questions about that? My bad. I didn't wait long enough. Okay. Next thing was game speed with the crossover. Denzel Ward blew my mind on that one. Just watch it. Denzel Ward was like he has a GPS in his head. Denzel Ward does not sprint train with us because he ran a 4.33 at Indy without us. So Denzel Ward, the best corner, I think, almost in the NFL, and Patrick Surtain just started last year. But Denzel Ward, when he came, literally, Denzel Ward, when he came, tried out 3 facilities in South Florida. And it was like Takeo Spikes in Atlanta. Takeo Spikes was trying out everyone in Atlanta. I was a 28-year-old punk, right? And I taught Takeo Spikes how to go high knees and butt kicks and skips correctly and how to break down and why we do stuff a certain way. And he was sold after the warm-up because I had a system. Denzel Ward came in. He didn't want speed because he was fast enough. So I taught him a 3-step read progression. He's like, what do you mean? Well, let's accelerate. Take another step, spin in place. He's, yeah, that's easy. Now let's accelerate, stop, sit wide, cross back. Yeah, I was like, that's like trail position, dipping your left shoulder. Again, I never played DB. Cool. Now let's cut down the angle. Fake excel, break plant, jab back. Yeah. Now that's the best way. You see how much space we cut off? 1, 2, 3, spin. 1, 2, sit, cross. 1, 2, boom, jab. And I just showed him that. He's like, you're right. I said, now we got footwork progressions that do that. Now we got outside leverage, inside leverage drills that do that. Yeah. Now we jump on boxes, land an inside leverage cross. Now we jump on boxes, land an outside leverage push. That's all I did. I taught him a 3-step read progression and drills to do. And he was sold. And I said, that's just one angle. We're also going to learn how to roll 90, sit 90. We're also going to learn how to attack 45s. And I did that to Denzel Ward one day. Thank God. And then the next offseason, before his second year, he's trained with us ever since. So he comes in, he's like, y'all doing speed today? Yeah. I said, can you get on the prowler? Yeah. Let's do some prowler pushes because all I do is care about your power. Right? Yeah. And then can you hit some fly times and just get under a second to get hamstrings in there? Yeah. Okay. Then we'll go straight to agility that day. Just imagine. Dose and speed, you're fast enough. Let's work on your speed day running angles. So then he comes in the next day, and what does he do? He works on DB drills, wide base drills, coming out of back pedals. Agility. So Denzel Ward's program is 85% agility with us, with 15% speed, just a dose. But when we do this crossover run with him, sorry, I got talking a lot. I said, hey, I want to see how fast you crossover run. Denzel stayed square and crossover ran like at 119 to 121. It was absolutely sickening. I said, dude, you could crossover run faster than people sprint. He's like, that's good, right? I said, kind of, but you don't need to crossover run that fast because you normally crossover run staying in position. If you're going to stand up and run, yeah, you run that fast. I was like, but crossover run, stay more in control. Denzel Ward looked at me and goes, all right, I get that. Crossover ran and slowed it down to 125. Okay. He slowed it down like 0.05, which is 1/3 of the blink of an eye by feel. That was crazy to me. He can do it. Now you tell some guys to manipulate that 0.05, they can't do it. Denzel Ward could at the snap of a finger. Denzel Ward, first time I did the roll 90 test, all 1.5s. Josh Downs just set records for the most catches for a Colts receiver in 2 years. He came in last year. I said, dude, we did combine. You got cheated at Indy. It was still 4.4. Should have been a lot lower 4.4. But you had one of the best shuttles in 3 cones, and you jumped 40 inches and almost 11 feet. Like, you're explosive, you're quick, you're fast, you're everything. I said, let's do this roll 90 test. I need to get it on video. I guarantee you get like 1.55 seconds on all of it. He got like between 1.52 and 1.57 on all of them. Did 4 reps in a row. Now, Josh thought I was a genius because I could guess exactly how far he was going to go there. But I said, no, Josh, I just know the fastest you can humanly do this turn is about 1.50 seconds. So I knew you have great agility, and good enough speed, but you know how to control it and you're a great route runner, you're going to do it in 1.55. He knocked out 4 in a row. It was so simple. But again, these great players understand this stuff, and we're trying to catch the coaches up to what the great players know, but it's hard. So any questions about the games to a crossover? I just talked about Denzel about it, but it's fun to play with different ways to run and see what speed and movements elicit what. All right, the last two, one step is everything. It's literally explaining the one-step video of why can't someone one step behind catch someone when they start and catch them. You just can't. Like, it just explains it. You give someone a step of space, and this person goes and this person tries to catch, it's over. Because this person, even if they're slow, normally can get to 14, 16 to 18, 17, 19 miles an hour. This fast person can go 22 is going to go 14, 16, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. So by the time they start closing that space, it takes too long. All right. So that one step is everything. It's kind of just a science behind it. Now, what you can do is prove them reaction is everything too, and this is kind of like an evolution of it. It's not hard. I'm going to do it at Alabama this weekend. You put one guy in front, one guy 1 yard behind. So this guy's back foot is at the 1 yard line. This guy's front foot's at the goal line. There's 1 yard of space. This guy can easily reach and touch the other guy in the hip. This guy takes off. Right when this guy takes off, this guy goes. You can't even see the hesitation. You can't have a 4-4 guy catch a 5-0 guy. It takes 30, 40 yards. It's absolutely mind-blowing for every coach in the world. But then you want to make it even. Same two people right there. And then just tell them you're going to give a go command. Go. Now, if this person gets off just a half a blink of an eye faster than this one, he catches them within 5 to 7 yards. That wakes everybody up. If you move after the person, it's done. If you move with the person, you can catch them. If you move a split check before the person, you catch them right away. That's how quick immediate acceleration and knowledge of the game helps. Speed doesn't help any of it. Speed helps none of it. That's what's unfortunate. Because we think if we get faster, we're going to win all over the field. Starting first and being right is what wins on the field. And that's what we try to coach with this game speed stuff. So one step is everything. But really what it shows is who starts first is everything. And who starts first with a blink of an eye. Okay, because when we're improving these fly times by 0.05, it's a great exposure, but we're improving their fly time by 1/4 of a blink of an eye. Because if you look it up on Google, it takes 0.15 to 0.25 to blink an eye, 0.15 to 0.25. So if you're proving a speed test by 0.05 on a fly, you're improving it about 1/3 to 1/4 of a blink of an eye. That's not that much. So whoever starts first gets that blink of an eye ahead. And if you start first, you get 1.5 to 2/10 ahead. Start first, blink of an eye. It's a lot less than people think. Any questions on that one step is everything? And the last one's a quest for a combine record. I'm not going to get into that, but we've had some 4.1s that they've misadjusted, and you can prove it with science, but no need. We've had starts that have been 141, 142, and 145 disallowed. But they let my man Worthy, not taking anything from him, hit a 144 last year and they counted it. Don't ask me why. Maybe I made him mad, but we hope we get a 144 time start this year or better, and we'll have guys faster than Worthy. All we got to do is have one of our fast guys get credit for 145 and under. We've had 3 of them disallowed it. Doesn't make much sense, but anyway. So my quest for the combine record is still on. We have the fastest times, a collection ever, more 4.2s than everyone. Yeah. But we want the record. Like, we want that record. Maybe we get it, maybe we don't. So I just talk about the training at Indy and why Tyquan Thornton probably ran a 4.11 to 4.14 and they didn't allow it. I got receipts to prove it. I got Mike from Zybeck telling me that Tyquan Thornton was the fastest guy they ever timed, faster than Kalon Barnes, who was 1.73 back in 20 to 40. Same year, they said Tyquan Thornton was faster than Kalon Barnes. Well, Kalon Barnes ran his 4.23 with a 1.53 start. On the official report, Tyquan Thornton has a 1.41 start. Now, if Tyquan Thornton is faster than Kalon Barnes per Mike Zybeck in miles per hour, right? And the official timer at Indy has him at a 1.41 start, which is only 300s faster than Xavier Worthy. That should happen. Well, if you add Kalon Barnes splits, who Tyquan was faster to, then on top of Tyquan Thornton's start, you get 4.11. So I'll ask you guys this. Do you ever think they'll allow a 4.11? Okay. If you take Kalon Barnes splits to a 1.44 start by Xavier Worthy, you know what you get? You get 4.14. Won't allow it. If you take DJ Turner's 1.42 starts and put his average splits that he always hit in training, you get 1.42, 2.42, 4.18. Won't allow it. So they took DJ's Turner's 1.42, and then they said he changed to 0.9 seconds from 10 to 20. That's humanly impossible to be that fast. And then they're saying he changed into a middle linebacker from 20 to 40. If you go by splits on their page, their official splits. So point being, we want the record. If I don't get it, I'm not mad. I know we have the fastest guys at Indy, and we'll just kind of settle on that. So any questions? I think the testing is training. I think the way these tests are laid out, we're going to build on, because I have generation 2 to each testing. We're, enlisting help from some data analysis, like the Rock Daisy people, to how are we going to show our skinograms or whatever they're called and graphs. So hopefully you could just punch in 5, 10 fly, 20, 10 fly, 90 roll, come back. I can give them to you, but if you punch it in and you could see where people are weak, I think that'd help. So we're trying to evolve it a little bit. The drills aren't going to evolve much. The test will evolve a little, but just how we display it, I think will be the best. So any questions? I'm an open book. Fire away. No questions? Okay, so next week I'm going to go through, I'll probably try to get through level 1 game speed and maybe even level 2, because that's when it starts of how are we actually moving after we're fast enough. But you've got to know how the tests are done, how to run correctly, the basics of agility correctly. And then we get into, well, what can we do after we know all that? So, all right, guys, I appreciate your time. And this will be recorded and dropped in there if you want to rewatch it. And again, I have no problem just helping anyone when I can, but just I appreciate everybody. Have a good night.
Thanks, Tony. Have a good night, man.
No problem. Thank you, guys. I'm going to hit stop recording. If somebody wants to stay on and ask a question without me recording,